The man who once defined cool for an entire generation, the white-suited king of disco, the leather-clad bad boy of Grease, the smooth-talking hitman of Pulp Fiction, stepped onto the red carpet at the 2026 Cannes Film Festival looking like someone we barely recognized. At 72 years old, John Travolta arrived in France not as the slick movie star we grew up watching, but as something entirely different, a beret-wearing, bespectacled director with a noticeably slimmer frame, a freshly darkened beard, and an energy that seemed almost resurrected. Social media erupted with jokes and confusion. "Why does bro look like he's about to negotiate his sovereign right to enrich uranium?" one viral post quipped. Another user compared him to a surrealist painter on the left bank of Paris in the 1930s. But behind the memes and the mockery, something deeper was unfolding. Something that, once understood, would break hearts and reveal a truth that Travolta had been carrying silently for years. At 72, the actor finally did more than just change his wardrobe. He revealed what many of us had long suspected but could never quite confirm: the weight of loss, the persistence of hope, and the profound love that has sustained him through unimaginable grief. To understand why a fashion choice at a film festival could carry such significance, we have to understand the man behind the beret. John Travolta's life has been a tapestry of spectacular highs and devastating lows. He rose to fame in the mid-1970s with Welcome Back, Kotter, then became a global phenomenon with Saturday Night Fever and Grease. He experienced a career resurgence in the 1990s with Quentin Tarantino's Pulp Fiction, cementing his place as one of Hollywood's most enduring icons. But behind the public triumphs, Travolta has endured private tragedies that would have broken lesser souls. In 2009, his eldest son Jet died at just 16 years old after a seizure-related fall while the family was on vacation in the Bahamas. Then, in 2020, his beloved wife of nearly 30 years, Kelly Preston, died of breast cancer at age 57. These were not just losses, they were cataclysmic events that reshaped the very core of who Travolta was. For years, observers noted a sadness in his eyes, a heaviness that seemed to cling to him like a shadow. He retreated from the spotlight, focusing on raising his surviving children, Ella Blue and Benjamin, and finding a way to navigate a world that had taken so much from him. When he emerged at Cannes in 2026, it wasn't just a celebrity showing off a new look. It was a man signaling a profound transformation, a deliberate, almost theatrical declaration that he was stepping into a new phase of his life and career. Travolta's iconic status in the film industry had never been in doubt. But as he approached his 72nd birthday in February 2026, observant fans and industry insiders began to notice subtle changes. He started making more public appearances with his children, sharing glimpses of a private life that he had always fiercely guarded. He posted a video on Instagram of himself piloting his private plane to Cannes alongside his daughter, Ella, captioning it, "Big day, big night in Cannes." Stay tuned. There was a lightness in his demeanor, a hint of excitement that had been absent for years. Then came the Cannes Film Festival itself. Travolta rotated through a series of statement berets, navy, beige, black, and sported dark circular spectacles that seemed lifted from a 1950s film set. Social media had a field day, but Travolta himself seemed utterly unbothered, even amused. "I've been around for over 50 years doing movies, but I can't tell, when I look back, the difference between the events," he explained to CNN. "And I said, I'm a director this time." "You're an actor. Play the part of a director." He had looked up pictures of old-school directors from the 1920s through the 1960s, the berets, the glasses, and decided, that's what I'm doing. I'm gonna do an homage to being a director. It seemed like a whimsical explanation, but it hinted at something deeper. Travolta wasn't just playing dress-up, he was deliberately separating this chapter of his life from the decades he had spent attending events as an actor. "When I look back, I'll know, oh, that was Propeller One-Way Night Coach, that was Cannes, that was when I won the Palme d'Or. And I will have vividness of it." This was a man desperate to create new memories, to mark a new beginning in a life that had, for too long, been defined by its endings. The buzz around Travolta's new look would have been enough to dominate headlines, but what he revealed next was far more significant. During interviews promoting his directorial debut, Propeller One-Way Night Coach, the actor dropped a bombshell that reframed everything. The film, a semi-autobiographical story about an 8-year-old boy's first cross-country flight in 1962, was not just a directorial project. It was a love letter, an elegy, and a revelation. I dedicated the film to Kelly, to my son Jet, to my brothers and sisters, to my mother and my father, because they are the model from which this film was born, Travolta revealed in an interview with La Repubblica. The admission was startling in its intimacy. For years, Travolta had remained largely silent about the specifics of his grief, protecting his family's privacy while navigating a public life. But here, at 72, he was opening the door to his personal history in a way he had never done before. He spoke of "Life has certainly tested me," and admitted, "I'm not made to remain absorbed in the darkness. I can look at the darkness, but I don't choose to die in that darkness." This was not a rehearsed soundbite, it was a philosophical statement, a declaration of a man who had stared into the abyss and made a conscious decision to step back. The tension in his words was palpable, the struggle between grief and the determination to survive, between the weight of the past and the fragile promise of a future. The movie itself, he explained, was about a child's hope and resilience, something he felt adults had forgotten. "As a child, I always looked at the glass half full, I thought life could be better," he reflected. And then came the moment that truly cracked the facade open. At a screening of his film, Travolta received a surprise honorary Palme d'Or from Cannes director Thierry Frémaux, a moment he described as "beyond the Oscar and the last thing I expected." He stood on stage, holding the award, and the tears flowed freely. "I cried like a baby because I just couldn't believe it," he admitted. This was not a stoic movie star accepting a trophy, this was a man overwhelmed by validation at a time when he needed it most. He had poured his soul into this film, channeling his grief into a project that honored his family, and the world was embracing it. The emotional significance was further underscored by who was by his side, his daughter Ella Blue, who stars in the film as a flight attendant. 32 years after Travolta first attended Cannes with his late wife, Kelly Preston, in 1994 when Pulp Fiction won the Palme d'Or, he was now there with his daughter, creating a new memory that bridged the past and the present. It was a beautiful full-circle moment, but it was also heartbreakingly poignant. The birth of it having significance would have been Pulp Fiction before Ella was born, Travolta explained. "So, it would have been very significant for Kelly and I because we saw Pulp Fiction for the first time at Cannes, and we won the Palme d'Or." Now, he was winning another Palme d'Or, this time as a director, but he was doing it without Kelly. The joy was inextricably laced with the sorrow of her absence. Meanwhile, insiders close to Travolta revealed the extent of his struggles. Sources told media outlets that Travolta had been so down in the dumps after Kelly's death that he needed a drastic reset to feel good about coming out again. The new look was not just a fashion choice, it was a symptom of a man fighting to reclaim his own life. He's hired a whole team of stylists and they've advised him on this beard and chosen his hats and the outfits, one source said, noting that Travolta hasn't felt this energized in years. The implication was clear, John Travolta had been grieving in private, and this public reinvention was his way of surviving. So, what was the truth that Travolta finally revealed? It wasn't a scandal or a secret career move. It was the profound, vulnerable reality of a man who has built his life around family, love, and a relentless, almost defiant, optimism in the face of tragedy. He revealed his vulnerability through his art, dedicating his directorial debut to the loved ones he has lost. He revealed his love for his children, speaking openly about his beautiful and unusual bond with Ella and sharing glimpses of his 15-year-old son Benjamin, who now towers over him. He even shared a story of singing duets with both Ringo Starr and Paul McCartney, his eyes lighting up as he recounted the memories with the enthusiasm of a fan rather than a fellow legend. These were not the guarded remarks of a man protecting his image, they were the confessions of a man who has learned that time is precious and love is the only thing worth talking about. But there was also a truth about his faith. Travolta has long been a prominent member of the Church of Scientology, a religion that has drawn significant controversy. When asked about the documentary Going Clear, which harshly criticized the church, Travolta was candid. "I've been so happy with my Scientology experience in the last 40 years, he told the Tampa Bay Times. "I've been brought through storms that were insurmountable, and Scientology has been so beautiful for me that I can't even imagine attacking it." For Travolta, Scientology has been a cornerstone of his survival. An insider even noted that Travolta and Ella are both followers, and that it has helped them through the very tough times they've both had to endure. While the world may debate the church, for Travolta, it represented a lifeline. It was the framework that helped him process the insurmountable storms of losing a child and a wife. This revelation that his faith was a source of genuine solace was perhaps the most telling of all. It revealed a man who, despite the world's judgment, has always followed his own path, seeking out what brings him peace. The truth also extended to his past, specifically his rumored romance with Olivia Newton-John. As their film Grease celebrated its legacy, a new book claimed that Newton-John ultimately did not pursue a relationship with Travolta because of his Scientology beliefs. According to the book, the late actress had confided to a musician friend, "I know the Church of Scientology really reveres him as a very valuable follower. If I had married John, would he have expected me to become a scientist?" The response that it would have been encouraged even if not mandatory reportedly made Newton-John step back. For decades, fans speculated about what could have been, and Travolta's quiet acknowledgement of his faith's centrality in his life contextualized that piece of Hollywood lore. It reinforced the image of a man devoted to his beliefs, even when those beliefs cost him a potential life with the love of his professional life. He eulogized Newton-John with immense love, calling her "my dearest Olivia," and writing, "Yours from the first moment I saw you and forever. You're Danny, you're John." That devotion, both to a memory and to his principles, sums up the man Travolta is at his core. When we look at John Travolta now, at 72, we no longer see just the dancer or the movie star. We see a survivor. The photos of him at Cannes Beret Askew, glasses perched on his nose, walking proudly with his daughter, are not just photos of a celebrity. They are photos of a man who chose to rise. He revealed that after the death of his wife, he was so down in the dumps that he needed a drastic reset to feel good about coming out again. But he did it. He did not succumb to the darkness. He leaned on his family, his children, his faith, and his creative work. "I'm not made to remain absorbed in the darkness," he said, and those words now feel like his life's motto. The secret that John Travolta revealed at 72 was not about a secret project or a hidden romance. It was the revelation that it is possible to live after devastating loss. That it is possible to find new energy, new purpose, and new love for life even after it has broken you. He channeled his grief into a film dedicated to his family. He channeled his loneliness into an even deeper bond with his children. He stepped out of the shadows and into the spotlight as a director, an artist, and a man finally ready to tell his own story on his own terms. His new look, so mercilessly mocked online, was his armor. His beret was his crown. The world saw an eccentric old man playing dress-up. We now see the armor of a warrior who refuses to be defeated by his own history. He taught us that hope is not the absence of pain, but the defiance of it. He showed us that you can cry on stage, laugh at the internet's jokes, pilot your own plane to a French film festival, and hold on to your family tighter than ever before. John Travolta's confession was his survival. And in revealing his truth, he gave us all a lesson in resilience. The man who once starred in Pulp Fiction has written the most compelling story of all, the story of a man who survived his own life. At 72, John Travolta is finally free to be exactly who he is, a man shaped by love, strengthened by tragedy, and unafraid to let the world see his heart. And that, perhaps, is the most beautiful performance of his career.